We have to make sure that the politicians are held accountable.
Every administration had the ability to put a ban on asbestos.
When it comes to asbestos, it really is about power, money, and politics.
So it's a really tender time. We're going to start with candlelighting, and I'm going to turn the rest of the program over to my dear, dear friend Ellen, who has patience that can never be measured, a heart that is just huge, and support that is just undying. So thank you. Take care.
So we are going to start with a man who's already been introduced. He will present his story, Eric Jonckheere. Did I pronounce that correctly? Awesome.
Right? Yes. Good morning. Yesterday it was quite emotional for me. Today we're going to be down to business. So, I am Eric Jonckheere and I come from Belgium. I am the president of ABIVA, the Association of the Victims of Asbestos in Belgium. Just to recap a little bit, the global production of asbestos, basically Russia is champion, then we have China, Brazil. Kazakhstan is giving us a lot of problem. We saw it yesterday, situation in K2. Canada, that's about to be solved, and India. Here is the graph that is a little bit outdated, but it tells us the situation, the mortality rate with mesothelioma. What do we see in the graph that interests both us Belgians and you Americans is the graph of Belgium stopped in 2000. So this is a situation that we are facing in Belgium, is that the political people all of a sudden find asbestos dossier a little bit hard to deal with, and they prefer the rug, and the numbers are very, very difficult to get to. And the American line stops at 2005. What happened here? Maybe there is something somewhere. So my family, basically, I told you yesterday that my grandfather worked for Eternit since 1937, and then his son Pierre was high engineer in 1953. When he married Françoise, my mother, they moved to Capelle-op-den-Bosch because it was a must for engineer to live within a radius of 10 weeks, because they had to be on duty some weekends. They had 5 boys, and I am the oldest. This, by the way, what was the last picture of the 6 of us, because another picture that we took in 1999. It is soon after that we had already lost Pierre, our father, in 87. Soon after this picture on the right was taken, that mom found out that the liquid that was in her lung was a sign of mesothelioma. So the question was, okay, we live 10 miles from the factory, but mom never worked at the plant. So what was the situation of the environment near the factory? What of asbestos in the water near the factory? Soon found out that her 5 boys had their lungs also full of asbestos. So before she passed away, she went to see the CEO of Eternit to really tell them how angry she was. And my mother was an écolo, as we say in French. I don't know how you say that in English, but somebody who is a Green, member of the Green Party before it was actually an official Green Party. So she was really mad, and for a little woman becoming mad, I was there at the meeting. I think I can tell you it was quite impressive. Eternit, like they did for the workers, hand her a contract, and in exchange of the sum of 42,000 euros that she could have received, of course they asked for her to be silenced.
that was, of course, impossible for Françoise to be. Because if our family had been so heavily impacted by asbestos in Capelle of Den Bosch, what about the other families? What about the families who had accepted the private settlement and could or would not talk? What about the fact that Eternit, when somebody became sick in the family, gave a job to the son or to the daughter? Are you, if you have a dying husband, are you going to turn against the employer who is now giving your son or your daughter a job? So nobody actually raised their voice except Françoise. Now the court and the attorney on the other side said that the Jonckheere family, you guys, you must have something wrong in your body. You are really the only one. Nobody else is complaining to Eternit. So at ABEVA, we embarked into a job, and we went to hospices. We went to undertakers. We went to priests. And they gave us names of people who had also passed away due to mesothelioma. So this is the map that we came up with. The dark dots are workers who passed due to mesothelioma and worked at Eternit. The orange dots are environmental victims. And you can see that the prevailing wind in that part of Europe is from west to east. And you can see that we have more orange dots on the east side of the factory than on the west side. It is due that we believe that the fibers coming out of the two factories, which are the two red rectangles along the canals, are basically pushing the fibers away. So Mom was free to take Eternit to court. So far, she has been the only person taking that multinational to court. And we won. So it took us 17 years. It took us 17 years. The first judgment came in 2013, and we won. Eternit was found responsible for her death, and they awarded us 256,000 euros. Of course, Eternit appealed. And in March, just a year ago, March 2017, we won the appeal. Eternit was again found responsible, but hélas, the settlement was divided by 10, and we only got 25,000 euros. So, with my brothers, we had decided that it was okay. What was important to us, like I told Barry, was the responsibility. For the first time, a housewife won a court case against a huge multinational. How did we get there? And this is one of the points that I want to bring in my presentation, is because we were able to get information. Belgium is known for French fries, chocolate, and beers, and cartoons, but it should also be put on the map of the world for being one of the biggest users of asbestos. So being the first case to take that big multinational to court was kind of difficult. So we got information from activists and organizations around the world. On the left, you see us talking with activists from Netherlands and France. And on the right, you see that lawyers from Japan came to visit us in Brussels, and we exchanged information. The only thing that I would like to mention is that it was very difficult for us to get information from the US, because you have something a little bit different, is that here you have to pay to get information. The information that we got from Japan and the other countries basically were given for free by law firms. United we stand. As I said, we were able to exchange information with organizations from all across the world, basically. Now, I would like to point out that I have put logos from organizations on the left. just to the fact that in their logos they use the famous letter A. And this is, I don't know if you're familiar with this sign. This is a sign that is widely used in Europe, and that is a must. Every time you have asbestos on the pipe, in the cellar, in the basement, or whatever, you are required to put a sticker with the A. A stands for asbestos, to make sure that whoever is going to come and work in the room knows that there is a situation of asbestos. So people who are about to dig, electricians or plumbers, do know that they better be careful or ask. On the right, you have, of course, the logo of ABEVA, the organization of Belgium. There was, at the time, no logo for our friend from Quebec. Underneath, you have the Spanish logo, the Ban Asbestos France, ABREA, and, of course, ADAO. It was really important for us to be united and get information. A little bit of information from all over made a big difference. That's, we could get from a Dutch organization information that they got from a Spanish organization that they probably got from Barry, that we could prove to the Belgian court that in 1963, the Belgian branch of Eternit made a decision not to go and talk to Professor Silikov. And that, of course, the judge was very much impressed by the fact that the Belgian family MSense decided not to cross the Atlantic and get the information. How many lives would have been saved if these guys had taken the time to go talk to Silikov? So, campaign strategies. Let's review what I think it's important to go through. Public information campaigns, media campaigns, formation of alliance with activists and trade unions, lobby for enactment of a law to ban asbestos, engagement with government agencies. Public informations. I think we need to occupy the space. Being outside with a bunch of victims and activists, that builds my self-confidence, that builds hopes among the activists. This was taken in Hong Kong. You see, we don't need a lot. I was standing on the wooden pallet to give a talk. Media campaigns. Of course, Françoise being the first one, being a housewife against the multinational, she was called by a leading Belgian newspaper the new Erin Brockovich of Belgium. That made us, of course, very proud. But I think that people need heroes. I think in the rooms here we can find many other Erin Brockovich. And this is where I think we need to touch the media in a certain way, that they will promote our message. And of course, prevention is part of it. How come that many times in the articles that I read in the press, the media talks about 107,000 people dying of asbestos every year? This number is way too low. What I learned yesterday with the presentation of our Finnish friend is that actually it's 270,305 people dying every year due to asbestos. These are the big numbers. This is what's going to raise the attention of the politicians that we are trying to aim to. So how come that the media is talking about 107,000 and we are unable to throw them on the desk that the actual number is 270,000? This is one tsunami, 2005 tsunami, every year that we are losing. That is the numbers that we need to put on the table to raise the conscience. Formation of alliance with activists and trade unions. This picture was taken in Paris during one of the reunions that we had. It's great that unions are put on board because they direct link with the with the workers. We need to exchange IDs, we need to exchange statistics, and probably the solution may come from somebody, a friend who lives abroad. Lobby for enactment. This picture was taken by some activists of ABEVA, and we decided a few years ago that during the festivities of the Quebec independence, we were going to come and disturb the party a little bit. We had our signs, and my sign was "L'amiante que j'ai en moi vient de chez toi." The asbestos that I have in my lungs comes from you. I can tell you, these people were not quite happy to have this beer and Putin disturbed, you know, by a group of activists. But this is how we move conscience, and we have to put people in front of their responsibilities. Engagement with government agencies. Well, a few years ago, our friends from Kyoto asked the people from Casale and us from Belgium to come because they needed the final push to make the mayor, the female person sitting in the middle, is the mayor of Kyoto. And they had a huge problem convincing her that the factory in Kubota had to be closed. And there was a huge health problem with people around the factory. So we never hesitate to fly through a few, in my case, to fly a few extra hours and to go in order to help brothers and sisters to make a final push when we can. Now, since we won in Belgium, the dossier, of course, in Belgium is not over, but we have a huge problem with asbestos in the schools. We were told, we were told that in the French section of the French-speaking system in Belgium, there is a known 1,614,000 square feet of asbestos left in the schools. And we had somebody coming on the TV saying that they did not have the money for the cleanup. So we went to the media and we approached them to say, well, our children and teachers are at risk. They, of course, embarked right away because we cannot accept the fact that pupils and teachers spending years in schools are the victims of tomorrow. So beside that, I will focus my attention on the third world countries. Did you know that when asbestos was banned in Belgium in '98, Eternit, knowing that they had to stop the production, they went on and invested money in India, where they could keep the production. So we have an Eternit factory in Congo that needs to be cleaned up. We don't know how many sick people are there. They need our help. What about India? What about Zimbabwe? You may have read in the press that with the new president, Zimbabwe is looking for $200 million to restart the mining. What about Bangladesh? Our ships, at the end of their lives, we send them to Bangladesh and India to be dismantled. And we let these people work barefoot to take away all the chemicals, all the asbestos. We should do that ourselves. We have the know-how. We have the unions to protect the people who would do that job. But here again, it costs too much money. So we prefer sending them away. We were able to have an aircraft carrier, a French aircraft carrier, that was on its way to India to be dismantled. And with the organization in Europe, we were able to put enough pressure on the French president. And he ordered, at the end of the day, he ordered the aircraft carrier to be returned to France, to be cut in pieces by the French people. Breathless. So with Daniel Lambo, who sits in front of the picture on the left, who is a new friend of mine, but he happened to live in the same village of Capelle as me. His father worked at Eternit. His uncle worked at Eternit. Both were union leaders. When he heard about Françoise and my family not being silenced, he was wondering why in his family asbestos was a no-no. We could not discuss asbestos on the table, even though his father was a union leader. So he approached me and said, Eric, I'd like to know a little bit more about your situation. And for the last 5 years, him and us, we have been working on a new film. The English version will be called Breathless. And for the first time on the planet, you are about to see a trailer of that film. Please.
The factories have been closed in the West and opened up in India to take advantage of lax laws.
This is what makes me mad and what makes me travel the world, because that must stop.
Largest asbestos waste dump in India and possibly even South Asia. Nearly 600,000 square meters of asbestos waste.
I never knew about the harm of the asbestos. Even the workers, they were not knowing. Otherwise, they would have not worked over here.
And the children didn't know either.
No, nobody knew.
What do you think of fiber?
बीमारी होती है इससे।
Okay.
हमारे अम्मा के विचार, मेरे दादा दादी के।
There's a huge rise in the use of asbestos in India. Indian cities are riddled with asbestos.
Now the asbestos should be banned totally.
Hello, sir. Do you speak English? Can I talk to you about the situation in Kazakhstan and Russia?
What's happened is nothing less than corporate homicide. If you made a decision that has cost the lives of people, then you should be held accountable for it in a criminal court.
Please. Yes, in my own backyard, decisions were made that have impacted so many lives across the world since Eternit had its headquarters about half a mile from where I lived. We have a responsibility. Now, let me talk to Emily. Let me talk to the young people here. If my information is correct, in 2017, let me do a little bit of politics. 11,650 people died in America due to firearms. Am I correct? According to what I saw yesterday, 39,000 people, 275 people died in the US due to asbestos. Students from an high school managed to gather 500,000 people a few miles from here to say, stop to firearms. They were high school kids that had enough of this. Emily, the young generation, with these numbers, please do organize a get-together. We must be 1 million in front of the building here to say stop to asbestos. Come on. Isn't it impossible for us to unite 1 million people to say stop to asbestos? All these dramas, they have to find ears to your lawmakers. How are we going to wake them up? Young generation, we depend on you. And I'm sure world activists will join you the day you organize such a march, and I will be there. So activism is my medicine. Yeah. I wanted to reassure Dorothy that I'm fine. I'm not seeking revenge. But I had to write a book, just in case I'm the next one in the family. What could I leave as a message to my 3 children? My youngest, Charlene, was not doing well when my second brother passed away because she was 11 years old and she imagined her own father being the next one. So I started writing. Writing helped me putting my emotions and leave a trace. My house was burglarized 3 months after the book came out. Did I buy a dog? Did I buy a weapon to defend myself? No, there is not too much I can do. Was there the lobby behind it? We don't know. But the book is there, and I was able to mention the names. The Emsens family, the Van der Rest, the Dr. Lepoutre. Dr. Lepoutre was the house doctor, but was also the doctor of Eternit. You can imagine what kind of message he had. So the book has been translated in Dutch, is doing well, and I'm really looking for a way for it to be translated in English. And I think my story, the story of my family, the way I look at the future, the way I conceive a world without asbestos, my interest, the English-speaking community. So if you do know anyone speaking French and English well enough, willing to translate the book, or a publisher, you have my numbers, and I would appreciate the book being translated and published in English. Thank you for your attention. And it is not the years that your life that counts, it is the life in your ears. Thank you very much.